Hello, I'm Charles Haskell. This is the 7th talk about UUSM history from my 40-year membership perspective. Today's topic is how we created our beautiful campus. In 1979, when my wife and I joined the church, the campus consisted of the sanctuary and Forbes Hall on the corner of 18th and Arizona, and on the other side of the alley on 17th Street, a 50 by 150 foot lot with a small house and a ramshackle apartment complex. This was sufficient for the ministry of the Reverend Ernie Pipes, but with the arrival of the Reverend Judith Meyer in the early 90s, the church began to grow and outstripped the available space for RE and for the sanctuary. We went to 2 services in 1995, but that was insufficient to really meet the size needs of the church. Consequently, with leadership from President Barbara Kernigan at the time, as well as from our building committee chair, Allison Kendall, and others, we undertook developed plans to replace the structures on 17th Street with a new modern RE building and outdoor space for receptions and the like. We encountered considerable neighborhood resistance to our plan because of 2 things. One was concern about noise, but more importantly, the fear was it would increase congestion of already limited parking spaces because of the commercial activities in our neighborhood, including the UCLA hospital. Nevertheless, after a lot of maneuvering and negotiating and compromising with the Santa Monica Planning Commission, we finally had approval in 2004 for a building on the 17th Street lot. Within a week of approval of our building plan, a for sale sign went up on the adjacent property to the sanctuary at 1248 18th Street. And this was a space long coveted as the best possible property for expansion. On an expedited basis, the board, led by President Carol Kerr, made an offer which was accepted, and the congregation voted in May to affirm the purchase, sell the 17th Street lot, and extend a capital campaign to fund an entirely new building plan on our 2-lot space. I'll talk now about 3 different components of this story: a financial one, the architectural issues we faced, and project management. The initial capital campaign was run by past President Ray Goodman. Ray made a personal donation and sought additional donations from others, including us, which we were happy to do. And the church spent about $50,000 on private consultants to try to help us determine how to proceed. The amount of money raised was really inadequate to undertake a project of this scale, so the board approved a new campaign which was co-chaired by Ron Crane and by Ophelia Lockman. They were extremely effective in raising money. Ophelia in particular was cornering everybody that she ran across. And over the course of the period of time of this project, more than $2 million was raised from major bequests. The first such bequest, or the largest one, the first one was by Earl Morgan for $473,000, and that kind of kick-started things. With that bequest, we knew that we would be able to proceed with the project. Earl Morgan was a client of Jerry Moore, a member of our congregation, who encouraged Edgar Morgan to named the church as a beneficiary, and he subsequently died. Other major bequests include one from Drew Still for $615,000. Drew was a bit of a curmudgeon, deaf, traffic engineer who attended all of our meetings and loved the church. In addition, we received a nice bequest from Ralph Meyer in the amount of $415,000. Ralph Meyer was a long-term member who recorded Ernie's sermons back in the day and was best known for his rug cleaning service, which many of us use. Judy Federick gave $259,000 in her will. Howard and Dorothy Wesley, $169,000. We know Judy Federick from my previous talk about the welcoming congregation process. Howard Wesley was an interesting character who loved bees and kept a beehive on his property. And others gave money in the range of $10,000 to $50,000 for a total of major bequests of $2.1 million. This information is from Jerry Moore. So we had the money to do it, and we probably spent close to $3 million over the 15-year period. The second area of concern are architectural issues. Although our original vision was to expand the sanctuary to accommodate our larger membership, we ultimately concluded that we couldn't expand the sanctuary because of parking constraints. We simply did not have a way of creating the amount of parking needed to support the expansion of the sanctuary that we envisioned. We were also constrained early on by financial limitations because we didn't realize we would be receiving such large bequests. After many meetings and extensive discussions led by Allison Kendall and our architect, Ralph Mashure, we settled on a new project in which we decided to take the existing cottage on our new lot and move it closer to the street, thereby allowing for more meeting space in the backyard, and also provided additional space that could be turned into a small amount of parking on the alley. This shows the building with the under area prepared for movement forward. Ultimately, the project was finished with the house remodeled and with a nice courtyard and with trees and landscaping. We're grateful for the landscaping advice of member Keith Ludowitz, who was a landscape engineer. And we ultimately had a environmentally friendly garden area, and we also had the Garden of Eternity as created on the Arizona side by Ray Goodman, and a new kitchen in Forbes Hall, and the whole thing was completely renovated with a new space. As for parking, we abandoned hope for our own parking lot in favor of an agreement with UCLA, allowing us to use their parking facility on 16th Street. Now, the third component, project management. Project management was accomplished by successive boards and board presidents. Carol Kerr was especially effective at helping us sell and buy the properties that made it possible for us to have this expansion. I was president in 2006, 2007, when many of these important building decisions were made. Ron Crane, Bronwyn Jones, Patricia Wright, Cynthia Cottom, subsequent presidents also played a major role in project management. During my presidency, I was particularly pleased to have help from Tom Hamilton. This shows his wife, Bronwyn Jones, who is a past president. But Tom is a brilliant guy who worked for RAND and devoted himself as a project to make sure that we were on budget and on time during the early phases of the project. he was enormously helpful. After Tom and in subsequent years, project management was largely handled by the building committee, obviously, but also by two architects, Beth Bronley and Brian Oakes. They did a terrific job of managing our project and helping us get to completion. And we ultimately had a ribbon-cutting ceremony in June of 2014, which was attended by local dignitaries, including the mayor of Santa Monica, Pam O'Connor, and other members of the building committee and leadership. Was it worth $3 million and countless hours of valuable volunteer time to build our present facility, which does not include an expanded sanctuary as originally envisioned? It does have improved RE space, and it's a nice place for receptions and so forth. But even though it doesn't have expansion, I would say that yes, it was well worth the effort. We are now a facility that's not just for us. It's one that is a community resource. It's used by more than a dozen 12-step programs for their meetings. It's also used for lectures, weddings, receptions, and other activities, so that we have a beautiful facility that is best thought of as an important community resource. This concludes today's story about how we created our beautiful campus. Thanks for watching, and remember, we are dependent on UCLA for parking for our big events, and we are contractually required to be good, quiet neighbors. Thank you very much.